Good morning and welcome to the Courage Coalition. Today's guest is going to rock your world, you guys. I truly believe that. I met Kendra just this last month and she's power, but not in the way that you think she is. But she resonates this energy of, what's that all about? Kendra Cooke is a trailblazer in the real estate industry since 1988. Her journey began as an entry-level receptionist at one of the biggest brokerages in Nashville, Tennessee. From there, she rose to become the owner of a boutique brokerage, filing every role along the way. She's not just an industry expert. She's a sought-after speaker, consultant, and branding guru who has coached elite professionals nationwide. She's a TEDx speaker, the best-selling author of Embrace, Empower, Evolve, a practical guide to embracing change, empowering growth, and evolving into your true self. Kendra, thank you for being here.
I'm so excited. I met you, a year and a half ago. And then I said, I'll never forget you because you have the same name as my son. So I'm honored to be on your show. Thank you so much.
And, guys, I want you to just hear this for a second. So, yes, we met a year and a half ago, but it was pretty superficial. Like, we didn't really talk. We were at another conference and we said hi and we had a small conversation. You told me about Corey and I was like, oh, very cool. But this last month, we really sat and had a deep conversation. And not only that, but I got a chance to hear you and your story a little bit. And that's what really hit me is, you guys, please do not be afraid to have those conversations. Do not be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone and just start talking, because we learn so much about humans as a whole. And I'll be very vulnerable here for you guys. A year and a half ago, I heard a statement from Amberly about, she's a millionaire. And I immediately stopped back. I was like, yeah, that's outside of my league. That's exactly what I said. All those imposter syndromes that come in. And then last month we would have had this conversation that I was like, oh my gosh, same thing, same story. We all have it, no matter how much we make or how successful we are on the outside. So thank you for being just being so open when we had that conversation.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Women struggle with having hard conversations for fear of judgment.
Yeah.
And so, I know we're going to talk about money today, but,
Yeah.
I have done a ton of research before I did my TEDx talk. Okay. And I wanted to research why women have trouble around talking around money. Like, what is the issues? And number one, it's because our parents didn't talk about money around us. So It was like the stigmatism. We don't talk about it. I always say I never knew if we had a dime or a donut. I came from a broken home. So that was one reason. But the second reason is everybody said, oh, go to college and meet a rich guy. You don't have to worry about money. You don't have to take economics. You don't have to take finance classes. Just go marry a rich guy. He'll take care of the money, right? And then the third reason women especially, don't like to talk about money is judgment. Yeah. If you make too much, you're going to be ousted, or like, she's out of my league. Or if you make too little, you don't feel like you qualify for the table you're sitting at if everybody makes more. So we just don't talk about it.
Right. And there's so much worth, right? I think about that, even going back, like you said, to that first point, our parents didn't talk about it. But I just want people to hear, go back there for a few minutes, feel it, understand what stories started being a part of your truth, whether you chose them or not, from those early days. Because not only was it the lack of information, right? Because we were not taught, but also the stigma. I think about middle school. Oh, what a horrible time, right? But I think about the stigma. If you didn't wear the right thing, drive the right car. Really quick story. I just have to tell you, because when you said drive the car, in middle school, I was out of district, but I begged my mom to not have to change schools again when we moved. And I remember driving up to the richest school in our town. And my mom had a brown station wagon with paneling on the outside and whitewashed wheels. And I was horrified. And I immediately gave myself worth based on what we drove. And no one was telling us a different story. No one was saying that that is wrong.
No, 100%. And, I know we're going to dig into a lot of things today, but I wanted to make sure that when somebody gave me the gift of taking the emotion away from money, that I pass that to my kids, because I know that the generational curse around money, it's real. I mean, turn on the news, read a book, go to church, go in your community and volunteer. You will see that my mom and dad were always this way, so I'm always going to be this way. There's no way out. And I just, people say to me all the time, man, you're so honest and you're so raw and you're so real. And I'm like, that's the conversation I want to have. Take off the mask, take off the makeup, and help me. Because if you have been where I've been and you want to go somewhere different, let's go together. Let's collaborate. Let's expand our knowledge. Let's grow, versus, well, you go it alone and I'll go it alone and I'll struggle and you'll struggle and we'll both never get there. I'm over that day, those days, So, for me, the big changes for me were I did not want my kids to struggle in the money department like I did.
Yeah, so much truth, right? That intentional legacy, what we're willing to do, the conversations we're willing to have to create change for our children is amazing, right? But what I want to first and foremost say is that you guys, everyone says, oh, it's not hard to talk about money. It is, and you're lying if you say that, because you don't talk about it unless you're talking about what you have or where you're going or the investments. Talk about the hard stuff. Talk about what it took to get you there. Talk about the failing faster as you got there. And Kendra's going to dive deep into that, but this is the question I want to ask you. And I want you to think about it for just a second. If you could have had this conversation, let's say 25 years ago or 30 years ago, before you were faced with the hard, do you think you could have had it? And if you do or don't, what could we do differently? Like you said, you're teaching your children. What could we do differently to start having this conversation before, one, we've gone through the hard thing, right? Because a lot of times that's what throws us back. We're like face first on this concrete ground and we're like, okay, we got to do something different. But two, I truly believe, and I would love your input on here, is age is the biggest gift. Like, we are such geniuses as we get older, and it's not just experiences, it's something changes, and there's research behind that. There's something that changes in our brain. So I would love you to kind of talk about that, because I think that so many 20, 30 something year olds are like, yeah, it's easy for you to say.
Yeah. So let's go there for a second. So my rug got ripped out from under me at 34. And I was a super hard worker, great work ethics, decent marriage. But because nobody had talked to me about money, when I got a little taste of it, I wanted more and I wanted more and I wanted more. So I started creating horrible habits for myself and letting myself go. So would I have been open to that conversation in my 20s? Probably not, had I not had it in my teens, right? And so that goes back to that generational curse. We have to get a hold of our kids and start sharing a little bit more pain. Because I think you address this a little bit, but when the 20 and 30 say, oh, it's easy for you, because we come from a place, we've already had the school of hard knocks and now we have a little money in the bank. But if we can say, hey, I was your exact same age, I was 34 and I almost lost everything. So you've got the career of your dreams right now and you're looking for the man of your dreams or the woman of your dreams. Have that hard conversation with me now, 10 years down the road, and run the risk of losing it all, because that's really where I was. I was about to lose it all. My son was 6. I was sneaking out of bed at night to go back to my office. I was very addicted to work, which meant I was really addicted to the money. And everybody wanted to be the next Kendra Cooke. And what I was forgetting was there was a baby at home sleeping who needed his mom. And there was a husband who got married who didn't want to sleep alone. And I just got caught up in the, accolades and the money. It would have been awesome in my 20s if somebody would have said, hey, let's set some parameters up for you and learn how to do it healthily. But could I go back and have that conversation with 20s? Now I can. But would I have received it in my 20s? 50-50 shot. I
Right.
just wish somebody would have tried.
Oh, that's so powerful, right? Like, because we don't know until we know. And as you're talking about that, I want to ask you something else. And again, it's sometimes hard to go back and ask ourselves, would that have helped? Did anyone, so no one talked to us to about money, but did anyone talk to you about your individual values, your individual beliefs and dreams?
It was goals, goals, goals. Get your goals written, crush your goals, move to the next goal, grow, grow, grow. And I was in sales. So
Yeah.
I was a real estate agent. I moved to Nashville at 18 years old, the day after graduated high school, with what could fit in my car. Went to an extended stay, no cell phone. Mamas, listen to this. You can only imagine no cell phone, no GPS, the directions written on a piece of paper. And I'm moving from a farm town. My dad's a farmer to the big city of Nashville, Tennessee. No cell phone, no GPS, no nothing. Cash. I didn't even have a credit card, for crying out loud, right? And so I moved to Nashville to make it, I was going to go to law school. I was moving there to work the summer and stack up cash. And I was given a gift of a temporary assignment at a real estate office. And the man who was running the office and his wife would come in on the weekends, and they would bring me leftovers from their lunch. I was a starving student. And he kept saying, man, I see something in you. You're going to be amazing. You're going to be a realtor. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm going to be an attorney. Like, I took a bet on myself. He convinced me that I should try real estate, and I did. Right. And so sales for me, I went into real estate and I got a PhD from the time I was 18 until I got my license in 1996, which would have been 8 years. So I really had a master's degree in everything but finance.
Okay.
I knew how to sell. I knew how to knock doors. I knew how to create systems. I knew how to run a calendar. I knew how to set an appointment. I knew how to convert a lead. I had everything but a finance major. And so as the money starts rolling in, what do you do with it? You spend it.
Spend it.
And you've got people knocking on your door. Hey, you need to buy this billboard. Hey, you need to buy a moving truck. Hey, you need this. Hey, you need photo shoots. And so money's going out, it's coming in, but it's going out faster than it's coming in. And nobody ever said to me, hey, a P&L, profit and loss, track your money. So I'm in the heyday of my career in 2004 selling 200 houses a year with no assistant. I had to work 24/7.
Yeah. You know, when you think about her, right? When you think about her, because I know there's a lot of people on here that listen for business tools also, is what I think about is because I think that we all get wrapped up in what everybody else is saying, right? Like, do this, do that, do this, do that, because we don't know. And we're looking at people that are doing it better. But one of the questions I've had to ask myself many times, but also ask other people is, but what do you want? Right? Because, and that's not those values and those beliefs, right? Because just because, let's just say social media, it's always a hot topic, right? Just because that's how you get 50,000 likes or 50,000 followers, does it feel like you? Does it feel aligned with you? Because 50,000 followers that mean nothing. So what would you tell that person? Let's just say you're mentoring someone in real estate, right? That's your magic. What would you tell them when it comes to starting and building?
Yeah. I do this exercise. Who are you? Who are you? You're a mom, you're a child of God, you're a sister, you're a daughter. Who are you? That's how I like to start. And then what do you want those people to say about you when you're not in the room?
Truth.
You're
Yeah.
loyal, you're kind, you're dependable, right? What are those two things? Now, how do those things make you feel? Make me feel comfortable, it make me feel confident. Okay, if we know those three things, we have three columns there. Now let's create what you want. Who do you want to be? How do you want to run your business based on what people say? Because listen, my life can look amazing on social media,
Right.
and it can literally be burning down outside my door.
Right.
I can't tell you how many people I have followed on social only to find out it's a big fat lie.
Yes.
And so I just want to follow me. It's so funny. I was filling out a questionnaire this morning, and I had filled it out. They were asking me like, "What are your non-negotiables in business and professional and personal life?" And so I wrote them down, and I went and asked my husband. I said, "If somebody asked you what were my non-negotiables," he said the exact same thing I had written down.
Ah, that is money right there, right? Because that means you are showing us who you are every single day. And it's not just your husband. Because believe me, sometimes the people in the walls actually know you less than the people outside the walls, unless you're having those tight conversations.
Well, mine did for 10 years.
Yes. And I want to go back to that for a second, because I want you guys to hear a little bit of Kendra's story before we move on any further, because you've heard that she was a workaholic. And now you've heard us say it could be burning down. So I want you to go into a little bit. You are the real estate agent that is the person to be. This is the person we're striving to be. And I want you to talk a little bit about what was happening during that time. You said sleeping, all those things, but dive deep into what happened. But not only the aha moment, but then how did you begin to make the changes, right? Because I was just saying this earlier on a solo cast. And behaviors are just actions. If we don't do something different, the behavior is never going to change. But those behaviors are truly what define your results in anything you do.
100%. So for me, successful real estate agent, I had a PhD. Somebody saw something in me that I didn't. So for 8 years, I was just groomed to be a master salesperson, and stepped into that role right after my child was born and just blew up. I mean, I just didn't really have a big learning curve because I'd been doing it for so long under a master, in my opinion. And so my business took off, and my husband lost his job. And so we went from a 2-income family to one. And at that point, I'm driving the 430S Mercedes. We live in the dream house, the kids in the private college, the private grade school. And everybody wanted to be the next Kendra Cooke. I was the first person in my company to put up 200 sales and then 300 sales. And it was just the chase, right? I'm chasing. And I did not know that no was a complete sentence. By the way, that is my favorite saying in business. No is a complete sentence. But I just didn't see it. And so I just got caught up in the addiction, and work is an addiction. And so I figured out that I could sneak out of bed at night, and my family wouldn't know because my husband was trying to keep us put together with, duct tape and a little bit of love. And I got busted. So my husband was in the yard playing ball with our kid, and a police officer who I sold a house to, who was our neighbor, came home and stopped to tell my husband, "Man, your wife is working a lot of hours. I go by and check on her in the office." My husband had no idea. I'd been sneaking out for months. And the police officer was just, reiterating, "Man, your wife works a lot of hours." My husband's like, "Oh, really? Do tell." And so the story unfolded. So I got busted, and my husband gave me a ultimatum. "You fix it or I'm out. Like, you're either going to get abducted coming out of your office or going to fall asleep behind the wheel. And either way, Corey and I are left without you. And I'm not living this life. We'll sell the cars, we'll sell the house, we'll live under a bridge, but this is not going to work for me." And so as a believer, I hit my knees and I prayed for a solution, God to open a door, and he led me to an event very similar to the two that we've been at together. They were, you're sitting at round tables and everybody's sharing. I'm like, "Oh, I'm here to figure out how to get more work done, how to hire. I don't know how to hire. I have an ego. It's all about time. And I left that event, and again, before cell phones. So I'm running up to my room on the breaks, telling my husband, "I want to do it. We can't afford to do it. I didn't even know if my credit card would go through." And here I was making almost a 7-figure income, and we had no money. And he said something to me that changed my life. He said, "You can't afford to do it, and you can't afford not to do it."
Right.
And that was the change. I was like, okay. So I hired this coaching company, and they dig into your leads, your team, and your money. And within 60 days, they looked at me and they said, "You don't have a time management issue, and you don't have a lead issue. You have a money issue. You're outrunning. You think you're never going to get caught, and all of this debt's just chasing you into the grave." And that was when it all changed for me. And so I sold the Mercedes and bought a Hyundai. I got out of all the contracts for billboards and moving trucks. I surrendered to a process that they had figured it out after I fought it a little bit, and it absolutely changed my life. And that was in 2005. I got into coaching. In 2009, I became a coach. And then the collapse of the market happened.
Yep.
8, 9, and 10, and Nashville was decimated. And I lost, a ton of income. And I went to my husband because we had spent those last 3 years stockpiling cash. We're like, we're never going to get to this point again. And I went to him and I said, listen, what goes down will come back out. It's going to come up, but I need to borrow $150,000 from us to keep the team flowing, to keep my marketing going. So when we do come out of this, we can flourish. And he said, I trust you, take the money. And I took the money and put it in the business. Nobody missed a paycheck except us, but that was okay. We had money and we turned it around. And in 2011, I made my first $1 million in a year, net taxable as a realtor. And it just grew from there. But I had to hit rock bottom and I had to surrender to somebody else to fix the issue.
So I love that you talk in those terms because it just shows how much you've learned. Net taxable, right? You guys, this isn't gross. We all love to say, oh, I made $1 million. No, you did not.
That's real estate. That's the one thing I learned about, when I went into coaching and I get these students and I'm like, okay, so how much did you make? They're like, oh, I made, $850,000. Okay. Now I'm using myself as an example, by the way. So I have to send my tax return into the coaching company to get accepted because they only coach the top.
Okay.
And it was like $840 something thousand or whatever. And my taxable income was 170. I literally had spent all my money on marketing and the next fangled gadget, nice car, blah, 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 and left $170,000 of that for my family to live on. And from that day forward, I was like, oh, no. We don't talk about GCI in real estate because GCI is crap. Gross commission income doesn't mean anything. It's not what you make, people. It's what you keep. We got to get that in our heads.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you talk about real estate. I think it's really hard for real estate agents. Don't get me wrong, because you have these commissions, but you've got to think, I think it's truly every business owner, right? You cannot look at your gross. If you look at your gross, you are going to be where Kendra was, completely in debt because you're outspending yourself.
That's right.
And if we learn right from the beginning to understand our P&L just from those two basics, income earned, revenue earned, not income, revenue earned, expenses spent, and this is what's left, then we will change the way we do business, right?
Right. And for me, go ahead.
And sometimes that means you're doing more, right? And that's okay. Coaches are so powerful. You hear Kendra talking about this. I believe in it. You've heard me. My life has changed because of coaches, my worth, my desires, all those things. But you have to ask yourself, what is this doing to my bottom line? I'm not saying scarcity mindset, because there's a whole, like you just said, you borrowed, and you did. You borrowed $150,000. You invested when you had no money to invest, and it changed your life. So I'm not saying that debt is bad when it means growth, but I'm going to go back to the same thing. If you're going to invest and then not do the work, do not invest, right? Because your actions are your results. Nobody else's. Your coach can tell you everything. Your financial advisor can tell you every detail of how to get where you want to go. But if you don't do the work, you're done. Right? Yeah. So it's crazy, but I just had to say that. I love that you're talking in those terms because it just shows you, yes, how much you were able to learn and change that mindset around what has always been. So yes, you invested in the coaching, but I want to hear also, what was that first mindset or that first action that you actually had to do to go from, because you'd be amazed at how many business owners I have clients that actually are in this process right now, learning how to not spend in order to earn.
Yeah.
So what was that thing?
Yeah. So for me, the very first thing is awareness. I talk about awareness of your finances. And so on my TEDx talk, I talk about this, but separating your household and your business, because it's not one pile. So if you're in sales and marketing, or you're a real estate agent, or you own a small business, everything has to be separated, right? So that's the first step. I call it Financial Fridays. On Fridays, I look at what went out this week and what came in, and do I have a little money left in the pie? That's the end of the day, right? Because there was times when I was spending more than that was coming in, and then I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul, and I'm trying to move money around. And I love when people say, well, I have 3 different credit cards, and if one gets maxed out, I'm like, you're never going to accumulate wealth that way, right? The ultimate goal is that we become our own bank. You heard me say I got to borrow $1,000 from my personal money to put it in the business, and I was able to pay myself back. So when we can become our own business, or I'm sorry, our own bank, that's the key. But I think the simplest process to get going, like step one for me, was awareness. Just get a notebook, piece of paper. I know people tell me all the time when I'm trying to teach them a P&L, they're like, it's so complicated. I'm like, what's so hard about it? Get a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. Left hand side, put all the expenses. Right hand side, put all the income. Separate it out. And are you profitable or not? And listen, if you're not, the phone. If you're in sales and marketing, I tell my clients, you're going to carry this bad boy every second of every day anyway. Pick it up and make the calls, right? It's free. So when I went when I was in major debt, and I had to get rid of the billboards and the moving trucks and the shopping carts, my assignment was for 60 days, track all your leads, write them down. I'd never tracked my leads ever. And they just came, right? And I'm thinking, oh, it's all this money I'm spending. These leads have to be coming from that. So when I went into coaching, 60 days, they're like, you can only use the phone. All those things are gone. Get on the phone, go have a cup of coffee, belly to belly, or on the phone. Knock doors, something. But you can't spend very much money, right? And in 60 days, when I tracked all my leads and I turned in my lead tracker to my coach, every single lead on there was a past client coming back or a past client referral who I had catered to in the process, and they felt worthy of referring me and trusting me to their friends and family and colleagues. Not one person, not one, said, we're buying because we saw you on the shopping cart, or we're buying because we saw your billboard. So if you're here and you're listening to this and you're like, I'm in sales and I need some leads and I don't have the money to spend, pick up the phone. That's all you got to do. Reconnect with people.
I love that. I mean, like, there's so much power. Relationships are so much more power than transactions, and all those billboards and all that stuff was just transactional, right? I have a client who's in sales, and this is what she says: I collect humans.
I love that.
Right? Because it's so true. And she is so intentional about every relationship. And that's why she's as successful as she is, because people feel seen. They are seen. She loves truly intentionally in every relationship. And I really feel like we are completely moving out of transactional. Like we were talking about social media and the amount of likes. I truly believe that going forth, we are about that relationship and being heard and seen in everything that we do, even money, right? It's not just a transaction. There's an emotion behind it. There's a value behind it. There's a belief. There's a why. Why are you doing this? So, one of the things I heard you just say is that I think that I don't think, I know we get stuck. I'll have financial coaching clients and I'll be like, so where are we going to earn this money if you want to grow, where are we going to earn it? And they're like, well, you know what? I go to work, I work 40 hours. That's it. That's all I got. And you guys, you have to get creative, right? I mean, yes, you're talking about earning more in the same thing, but do you know how many powerful humans have gotten to the next step with a side gig, right? Just taking on that one extra thing outside of the W-2, outside of whatever it is you earn money with 9 to 5 or whatever it is. And that has actually turned into a business. I actually have an attorney right now, a client attorney, who is starting her own tattoo shop because she loves it. And her goal is to actually transform into that being her full-time job, right?
Awesome. Yeah.
So you never know when something is going to come a be that actually fuels that way we earn, and we earn in our strengths, and we can't undermine our strengths to be something that is what we've always done, right? Our strengths are some things that we love to do also, and maybe they earn money, maybe they don't. So when you kind of move forth, and this is something I'm always going to come back to, because we just talked about relationships, and we're talking about how easy it was, and I know it wasn't, but how easy it was for you and your husband to like get to this next step and have these conversations and all the things. Go back to when you had to look them in the eye and say, you know what, we're going to lose everything. If I don't keep working, we're going to lose everything. How are we going to do this? And how did you navigate that relationship and those conversations? Because again, as we go into 2026, it's about having the hard conversations and asking the hard questions, even when you feel so vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, and he didn't know we were one bad month away from bankruptcy. Only I knew that. And so when I came home from that first coaching event that I went to, the very first thing that I had to do was have the hard conversation. And so it was a cry fest. It was, oh my gosh, I'm a horrible person. I'm a failure, but I thought I could fix this. And I wasn't doing anything illegal or immoral. I thought I was building a business. And so when somebody's like, hey, well, you want to put your face on the billboard? You're like, yes. And you're not looking at your P&L. You got to start by looking at, can I afford it? And I never did that. I just did it. And, the first thing he said to me is, we'll get through it. Like, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. And if you read my book, you mentioned it, Embrace, Empower, Evolve. We had already been in major debt when we got together. And so we both worked two jobs. Like, I'm in real estate and I'm a bartender. He was selling cable, hooking up cable for the cable company. And he took a food prep job at night at Logan's. So he would prep all the salads and baked potatoes and everything for the next day. So we were already working two jobs and knew we could get out of debt. And so I talk all about that in the book. And then unfortunately, my business had taken us back into debt, and he just said, we'll get through it. And so again, we went and made a list of all of our debts. And we always start with the smallest one, chunking it off first. And then whatever you were paying on that one, you go to the second one while you're making the minimums. And so we just did it together. And then we put up some parameters. He said, listen, if you need to hire somebody for 90 days to help you get the office cleaned up, organized, make sure you're ready to hire them. You've got your to-do list of how you're going to train them and what they're going to take off your plate so you can go sell more to pay for that person. We just can't go into debt for that person long term, but we could for 90 days to fix it. And we just got on the train together, and he started telling me things. My husband's very smart and so wise, but he said, people want to work with truly professional people. So when you're showing up 5 and 10 minutes late because you're trying to serve 12 masters, you don't look like the professional that you are. So let's start sticking to a time block schedule, right? If you need to go in 45 minutes early in the morning, your mom can come and take Corey to school. And if you need to stay 45 minutes in the afternoon, we'll food prep on Sunday. I mean, we just had to collaborative come together and say, okay, it's a short-term pain, short-term sacrifice for the long-term gain. And it changed our life. And listen, from that day forward, we're open book. Like it changes everything. And I will tell you that God intervened so many times in that story and swung open doors for us and really helped us on the journey. And just to remind you guys, real estate was just going to be a hobby for me. My husband had a really good job. Okay. So the addiction personality, my kid's in the bouncy seat over here and I'm addressing envelopes and calling my friends and saying, hey, I got my real estate license. Did not know that I was going to do all the other things that came with it. But again, divine intervention, because my husband was in corporate America. So, he was going to tap out and sky's the limit for me. So once I was open and honest with him, he could jump on the bandwagon and help and support me. And then we have two of us going the same direction versus me going one and him going the other. And so I would just tell you, if you need to do anything and it has to do with a hard conversation with your partner, spouse, significant other, have it now. Because when you got two of you pulling the wagon the same direction, you can accumulate wealth, you can get out of debt, you can service your kids. I mean, there's just so many things two people can do better than one.
Love that. And just the power of the relationship. So, okay, I got two things I really want to talk about.
Yes, let's do it.
So we talked about your P&L, and I want to highlight the fact that you have created a journal. And this journal, or it's a calendar journal, it's kind of a multi-purpose book that is something new for you. And in that, you talk about your finances, you guys. So I'm going to have Kendra talk about it, but I also want you to hear what Kendra said before that. Yes, this is a journal. This keeps it kind of all in one thing. But you can have a piece of paper and you can have a spreadsheet. One of the things that everyone's like, oh, a spreadsheet has to be difficult. No, it doesn't. And if you're interested, I can drop a link to get a free spreadsheet. A spreadsheet can just be a way to track it. It's still to this day how I track my money. I don't live in some la land, right? Or have some fancy accounting program. I have a spreadsheet because to me, it's accessible. To me, I can share it with my husband, right? So we can be on the same page, all the things. Don't make something that's important hard. Make it easy. And whatever that is for you, if that is pen to paper, or if that's a spreadsheet, or if that's a journal, just do it. Do something. So tell us a little bit about the journal, why you created it. I mean, I think we know, but like why you created it and what your dream for it is.
Yeah, it's the daily plan. It's the daily well planner. It's right there, the purple book. So I and my business partner Julie Davis created it. We were at a retreat together, and it's been on my goal sheet for probably 10 years that I wanted to create a place to have all things for me in one place. And so she was at the retreat as well. And at the end of the retreat, she stands up and says, "I think I'm going to go home and create this journal and plan that." And I'm like, "Oh, we should talk." So within 2 weeks, we got on a strategic call and it happened. We rolled it out in October. It took us about 6 months. But for me, because I travel so much and speak, I'm on the road. I used to carry my daily devotional, my notebook, my journal notebook, my daily calendar. It was like I'd have my book bag weighed more than my suitcase. And I always said, I'm going to figure out how to get all of this into one bag. And she was kind of the same way. She had a journal for her money and a journal for her, gratitude journal and all these different things. And we're like, what if we created one place for women to just pick up and go? Like, I'm about to leave here to go pick Julie up at the airport. She's flying in for us to meet someone about the planner. And so I've got it ready to go. It's right here. So all my schedule's here. My daily start strong is at the top. So you manage. How do you start strong every day? Do you move your body? Are you in your sacred pause? Do you want to take vitamins? Are you trying to get so many ounces of hydration during the day? So we give you a place to really track and give yourself some wins early in the morning. You've got a place for reset, gratitude, affirmations, then your workflow of the day, your to-do list, and your power moves. But in addition to that, in the front, we teach you how to set 6-month goals with action items. There is a path to prosperity, the most simple, easy budget. If you really want to embrace budgeting for yourself, I give you the self instructions and the forms are there to start tracking your money. So super easy system. It's the one I use and I've used it for 20 plus years. And then in the back of it is about 20 or 25 pages of line notes pages. Because again, if I go into a meeting, I take all the notes and I've got notebooks and sticky notes. And I'm like, I eliminated all that. And so this book can stay on my shelf for years to come and I can refer back to my note pages. It's what I took my notes in at the conference we were just at Align. Okay. And that way I can go back and refer to them if I'm looking for something there. So it's really just a place for us to organize our thoughts, organize our money, our goals, and our daily plans all in one place to simplify our life, ladies. It's just, I think our lives are so complicated. We wear so many hats, and this is a place that you can simplify it.
Love that, because it's true. Like, I'm with you. My backpack that has all my books in it weighs more than my suitcase, no matter where I go. And I'm just like, right. So yes. I love that. And, one of the things that I want you guys, I hope you're hearing is that, you have Kendra who has shared with you very vulnerably how much she makes. She's, she is a very wealthy woman at this point in her life, and she's still tracking her finances, right? There's no place to get to where you have to stop, because stopping actually just puts your head in the sand again. We always consistently need to ask ourselves what's happening, whether it's business or personal, because one thing I believe without a heart is how you do one is how you do the other. There is no way around that. I was actually talking to a CPA yesterday and she's like, 100%. That's why I do a financial plan personally, a financial plan business every year. And so that is just power. It's evidence. It's all it is. There's no shame. There's no emotion with it. It's just evidence. Does something need to change? Am I right on path? Whatever it is. So what I want to kind of end with, as we're ending up this conversation is the definition of wealth. Because, we can talk about numbers, black and white, bottom line, but is that wealth or is that finances, right? Is that freedom? Or is that, like you had so beautifully explained, actually handcuffs, right? I would love for you to tell us or talk to us about how maybe your definition of wealth has changed, what you feel like wealth actually is today. And if it's a number, I'm all about that. Like, I want to know what you've come to terms with in your journey to financial, I don't want to say freedom, because I think of it different, but maybe it's your definition of financial freedom, right? How has that changed or pivoted? And what do you feel as you're teaching your children or the ladies that you coach, or what what that looks like today.
Yeah, for me, initially, I thought money was the ugliest word ever. I never knew if I had any. I came from a broken home. I, like you, didn't wear the fancy clothes. I got a job at 14 so I could buy my first pair of Jordache jeans, which people listen to this are like, what is a Jordache jeans? But I wanted the pink stitching. And so, I had a very horrible relationship, maybe some trauma and drama around money. I knew we didn't have a lot. I knew my mom always worked 2 jobs. And so there was a stigmatism around it. So I never wanted to be wealthy. I just want to help people. I mean, shocking that I'm going to tell you this, but my senior superlative was most helpful. Shocking that I turned out to be who I am today. But I just wanted to help people. It was really never about money. And if I had a dollar and somebody needed it, I would give it away. And then I think, that turned into not being accepted because I wasn't in that group, went through a failed marriage or very young. And again, lack of acceptance and was left with the debt. So again, I have a terrible relationship with money. And then I start making a little bit of money and I abuse it because I have trauma and drama around the money. And so just like everything else in our life, those paths follow you. And you have to figure out how to step in to your power around that and say no more. And that was where my breaking point was that I talked about earlier. And so, we set real little goals, like we want to have $100,000 in savings, and then we want to have 250. And so we just worked as a team, as a family, to save money. We lived below our means. And so if I'm fast forwarding to where I am now, we had a number that I wanted to retire at 50. And so once we realized we had a struggle, we were going to fix it. And I said, okay, let's just set a goal that I retire at 50. Not that I would, but if I could, I can. Right. And so my dad's the farmer. I said it earlier. He's still on a tractor. He's 80. My mom literally turned 80 January 20th and just retired in December. She worked up 3 weeks within her 80th birthday. So I come from a long line of hard workers. And so 50 was the number. I lasted retired for 3 weeks, by the way, and went back to work. I work more now than I did when I was in real estate, I think, but I am living in my true purpose. So wealth for me is I get to do what I love every single day. I'm so wealthy in living in my purpose, changing lives. I feel like I will get a little emotional, that I will be better represented when I'm gone than when I'm here. I want to leave the world a better place. So that's wealth to me.
Oh, I feel that so aligned. Like I just feel that so aligned. But what I really hear you saying is it's the opportunity to change your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
100 times. I've changed it 100 times, right? Yeah. But it does give you freedom.
Yeah.
To change your mind.
Yeah.
It does give you flexibility. But I don't live like I'm in the smallest, my husband and I live in a smaller house today than we ever lived in since we got married. I'm
so glad you said that, because I think, again, it goes back to that thought that what freedom looks like, or what financial freedom or what wealth looks like is what you have. My freedom. So the highest currency I hold right now is my freedom of time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
as I'm
little
building,
kids.
Well, not just that, but as I'm building a business, I mean, what I know most of my listeners know, but what maybe you don't know is I stayed at home for 20 years. Mm-hmm. I'm actually a high school dropout.
Yeah, you told me.
I got a college education, but it was later in life. And so there was so much worth around that. But what I've realized since I've gone into business, 2 things. I don't have to be so solid line. Like, I know that's what's preached. Maybe that's how businesses grow the fastest, but it's not who I am. Like, I need to be as multi-passionate as I am as a human in everything that I do. And when I do that is when I attract the currency of relationships, right? But currency of time, I actually have a new client right now, and I'm struggling because as I'm building, you take on new clients and you figure out what works and what doesn't work. And that client has this need for me to be at a certain place at a certain time. And I'm like, yeah, see, I don't think this is worth it, because that currency of time is so critical. That is my wealth. When I know that I can get on a plane and go anywhere or go here or go there and no questions asked, my job is done, but my clients understand it. That is like freedom. Wow. So clear, right? And I think it goes back to just identifying what is that why for you? What does that freedom look like for you? What is that, like you said, you're living more passionately, more purposefully than you've ever lived in your life. And maybe the number is completely different than what you ever thought it would be, or the house or the car or whatever it is, right? So thank you for saying that, because we forget what brings us the joy and the freedom,
Mhm.
because we're chasing somebody else's desire.
Right, right. And my non-negotiable, and I'll share this with you as we close, is if it doesn't make me money, doesn't save me time, or doesn't bring me joy, then the answer is no.
Oh, yes.
And that's my non-negotiables. And money's not always about currency.
No.
Money could be about deposits into a relationship. It could be deposits into a charity. I mean, there's the word money could be a lot of things for different people, but also the joy piece. Like, we have to stop chasing something that we're not passionate about because somebody told us that's what we're supposed to do. If you're not filled with joy, get out of it.
Yeah. And start chasing those things that do fill you up, even if no one else understands them, right? Because filling your cup is different than filling my cup, right? So, Kendra, I am just so grateful again, like you said, yes, that you're here, that you're sharing such a different perspective from a person that's actually been there, not just from foundational wealth teachings, right? So I'm going to drop the link to the journal. So I will do that, and I will drop a link to find Kendra. So you guys, if something is hit, check her out. She does retreats every year. She does coaching. We were actually talking about retreats, but she does coaching. She has books. She has so much knowledge and so many opportunities to work with her and be a part of that legacy and what she's leaving. So if something's hit, please go check her out. And you guys, until next time, remember, download, share, or leave us a review. Love you, mean it.
Thank you, friend.